So what we wanted to do here was, from two hiring managers that are actively doing it right now and have been there and done that for many, many years, is take your learnings and share them so that people that are listening can actually say, hey, am I doing that? And actually, should I be doing that? We're going to be talking about biggest interview fails and lessons learned. Darla, what can you tell me?
Interview fails. I once had one where one of the things I will say to people, please check your technology. We had a big storm once and I was working from home, had an interview. I couldn't connect. The other person couldn't connect because they were also in the UK in a big storm. So please check or reschedule, or if you see something like that, that's one fail that is so easily avoidable.
John, what about you?
No, I would say though, obviously from an interview fails perspective, what really stands out, if you yourself as the interviewer are unprepared, it does show. And I think, as I said earlier, just the respect to be given. Sometimes it can become obvious during an interview that the interviewee is out of their depth, or they realize and you realize that, hey, this just isn't, the right fit. And that can happen, and it's awkward, or individuals may be kind of, shy or nervous or whatever. So I think, for me, it's kind of teeing yourself up to say, right, be prepared because we're asking the interviewee to be prepared, and we say that the small stuff matters. So I think, we owe that to do that ourselves.
I would love to ask you questions about red flags. So what are the red flags that you see in interviews?
Red flags. Sometimes I actually think, once you get people past the initial nerves part, because everyone comes in nervous and everybody has their own thing, right? Is body language can be a really clear red flag. Sometimes I find if you ask a question that they're not comfortable answering, the way their body shifts, and it's kind of they have to kind of steel themselves to answer, and they get kind of rigid. And it's kind of almost so much, they say so much of communication, over 90% of communication is body language, right? So I always pay really close attention to body language. Are they comfortable with these questions? Are they comfortable with me, right? And then if you see that they're not comfortable with you, you try ways to be more empathetic, more understanding, trying to shift the conversation to get them more comfortable. And if that's not getting there, sometimes that is a red flag because you don't know why they're there. But, that's one that I really pay attention to.
Maybe the first thing is kind of giving the benefit of the doubt, because I think we will see you have different personalities and characters, that are, outgoing or maybe a little bit more, reserved. So for me, and again, it's another quote I would talk about, for any movement to gain momentum, you start with a small action. So I'm always looking for the small actions or examples. Now that might, again, and maybe it's just something that I've a nuance on, but sometimes for me a red flag is when I hear about the big projects. Hey, I did, 10 510Ks, I did the first 3 PMAs for our company, etc.
How do you design your interview processes?
So I actually, similar to John, I do look at what am I hiring for? Am I hiring for an individual contributor? Am I hiring for, a team leader or somebody more senior? For example, if you have a team that's maybe disjointed or they're not pulling together and you're hiring a senior leader, you want to make sure that they have, and I'll go back to what John said, empathy, right? Are they going to be able to connect with the team members? If you're hiring an individual contributor, it's more about, how do you work with other partners? How do you partner across the business to drive a project forward or to get a submission in and ask open leading questions? You don't want just a yes or no answer. You want them to provide a bit. And one thing I can say to people who are hiring managers, because I've seen this as an interviewee, is make sure you read their CV before you get on the call.